We are about to start this session, and I would request you all to kindly take your seats, please. Thank you. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have had a pleasant meal. We are going to start our post-lunch session, and I would like to invite Ms. Ingrid R. Lorang, CEO, Telenor Global Services, to come up on stage for her presentation. Ms. Lorang.
Thank you. Your Excellencies, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor to be here today on behalf of the Telenor Group. As you've already heard earlier today, Telenor operates in 13 markets all around the world, primarily in Asia and in Europe. We have stated as one of our primary ambitions that we want to deliver Internet for all. Internet for all is a huge endeavor. And for us in the Telenor Group, it's primarily now about ensuring that we move from approximately 60 million connected Internet users to 200 million Internet users by end of 2017. And this is also for the Telenor Group, although we are approaching 200 million subscribers within our business as of today, a huge endeavor to actually move them and others as well in order to use the Internet and not only the mobile phone. In order to be able to deliver on this endeavor, our market units, the companies, need to spend all their time, effort, and resources to any extent possible in the market, taking care of the customers, using their energy in order to educate our customers on the use and the advantages of the Internet, and of course, taking care of the local competition. So what we have then embarked on in order to secure this is an industrialization strategy that should enable our business units to focus on the market, whereas wherever possible, we also establish global operations in relevant areas where we can actually offload the market companies and make sure that the global operations can deliver services for them and freeing up capacity so that they can spend it on network and again, the customer. Telenor Global Shared Services is one important pillar in what we call then the global operations of the Telenor Group. Primarily the areas that we are delivering services on then globally are the back office types of functions, support functions, and areas that are on a local basis, not necessarily part of the core business. What we're able to do then is also to ensure that we can standardize processes and through that also deliver a higher quality and do so even more efficiently. What we have decided is that we will use outsourcing as one of the primary vehicles to secure our global operations. Outsourcing also delivers quite significant benefits for a group such as Telenor. Because what we can do is to utilize the scale that we can achieve all across our company. We can use that in going into partnership with external vendors, and we can do so in cooperation with them utilizing the experience, the expertise, and the specialized expertise that they have in areas which are actually not core for the telco business. That also enables us to get actually better control. It enables us to expand. It scales better when the Telenor Group grows, as we are doing, and are very proud to be doing as well. The Telenor Group feels that we have, through our engagement in Bangladesh for, as Mr. Bakso said, almost 20 years, actually been part of, and we're proud to be part of, the major development of this country through the offering of communication services to more than 50 million people in this country. What we are now doing in entering as well into a partnership with Accenture, and through that also establishing a new business in Bangladesh. We want to be a major contributor also to the development of Bangladesh, also going forward, even in new areas. GPIT was taken out of GP and established as a separate company in 2010, delivering IT services, with major ambitions to deliver services to also outside the Telenor Group, outside GP, in the IT market, in the IT space. It became clear after a while that that company would also benefit from having an external partner, having operated in an external market, and with those capabilities in an industrialized manner as well, in order to realize its ambitions. And at the same time, with the endeavor and the startup of the Telenor Global Shared Services within business processes, we decided that we would search for a partner, and after a thorough process, selected Accenture as our partner in both areas. We see that we have then, through that partnership, now gained access to specialized competence, to a major global network with professional business process outsourcing capabilities that has then been brought into Bangladesh, both to enhance and assist the growth of the IT part of this business, starting in GPIT, but also then to establish a new business process outsourcing business then that initially starts with the business that comes from the Telenor Group. We feel that there is a huge untapped potential, and the experiences that we see so far really proves this. There's a huge untapped potential with regards to growing this business in Bangladesh. What our experience shows us is that there is a good availability of highly educated resources. We also see that there's an attractive cost position. I also agree that the cost position is not enough over time. It's really important to continue to develop, especially on the competence side. But it's an attractive market, and with the combination of resources, competencies, education, and an attractive cost position, this should cater for an opportunity for major growth for Bangladesh and the BPO business. Our experience so far is that we, within 1 year of the establishment of the BPO business, together with Accenture here, have been able to get the delivery center up and running, delivering services within the finance and accounting area and HR area to 6 business units in the Telenor Group. So in addition to delivering to GP here in Bangladesh, we also deliver services to Norway, to Sweden, to Denmark, Serbia, and Montenegro. So it's already delivering on a global scale. More than 200 new job positions are created through that business and will be growing. We are also about to deliver to more business units in the Telenor Group. Within the IT space, we have a project running that was also referred to by Mr. Gianelli, where we are introducing state-of-the-art services to 4 Asian business units on the IT side, thereby covering also not only Bangladesh and GP, but also DTAC in Thailand, Digi in Malaysia, and Telenor Pakistan. We're very happy to see our employees, or Accenture employees, working for us with their engagement, their motivation, their competence, their friendliness and service-mindedness that our people sitting in different places in Telenor experience every day. So the starting point is excellent. Again, I'll just conclude with stating that we are very happy to be able to continue to contribute to the development of Bangladesh, that we see the major opportunities, that we have good faith that this will be a growth area for this country, that we will also have huge benefits of from the Telenor Group. And that together then we can realize a vision not only of digital Bangladesh, but also through that of empowering society. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lorang, for sharing the Telenor experience with us. And now I would like to invite Mr. Matthew Guilford, Telenor Digital's Global Head of Health, for his presentation. Mr. Guilford.
Thank you very much. Salam alaikum. Well, we are excitedly about to sign an important first partnership agreement between Telenor Digital and the A2I initiative in the Prime Minister's office. And before we move into that, I just wanted to present a brief overview of who Telenor Digital is and why we're so excited to be signing this agreement. Telenor Digital is the internet services arm of Telenor Group. We create tools that make it easier for people to do everything from storing digital photos to having video chats to paying for things online. We offer these services both through Telenor business units and directly to consumers through different channels. And in fact, people are using Telenor Digital products in scores of different markets outside of our mobile network footprint. Importantly, Telenor Digital is also the home of Telenor Group's emerging work in socially oriented digital and mobile services, including in areas like health and education. And that's why we're so excited to be here today. I just wanted to share a bit from our side about why we're so excited to be working together with A2I. We really admire the work that A2I has already done to deliver services to citizens' doorsteps through digital technology. We see A2I helping to accelerate our deployment of digital social services. First, the program and its counterparts in government ministries can help prioritize services to ensure that we're addressing the most pressing needs in Bangladesh. Second, A2I can be a critical bridge connecting digital services with brick and mortar services as well to ensure continuity for citizens. And perhaps most importantly, we believe that the content and expertise in the government of Bangladesh is hugely valuable in creating new digital services that address social needs. Although our work is just beginning, we have already identified 3 key focus areas for our efforts. The first is developing services that empower citizens. This means equipping people with new tools, content, and support to help them achieve the goals that they have set for themselves and for their families. It also includes services that make it simpler and easier for people to navigate and interact with public systems in order to get the services that they need most. Our second focus is on tools that enable service providers. These services will include platforms that allow public sector workers, doctors, teachers, civil servants, and others to reach more citizens, including those in remote areas. The tools we develop together can also help these professionals further enhance their skills and expertise to provide even higher quality public services. And third and last, we intend to develop services that support policymakers and planners. These tools will include systems that leverage data analytics to identify key trends, unmet citizen needs, and gaps in service delivery. We will also work together to deploy digital tools that help public sector leaders monitor and drive performance and efficiency from government systems. Over the coming months, we will be working together with A2I on an action plan that outlines an initial set of projects aimed at addressing these objectives. We're very grateful to everyone inside and outside of this room who has helped to get this partnership to this point. We are confident that our work together will improve the lives of many Bangladeshi families in the years to come. And now I think we're on to the signing of the MOU.
And to help with the signing ceremony, I would like to invite Mr. Anir Chaudhry, Policy Advisor, A2I, Prime Minister's Office, Mr. Hans Martin Hendrickson, Chief Representative Officer, Telenor, Bangladesh, the Honorable State Minister, Ministry of Posts, Telecommunications and Information Technology, Mr. Junaid Ahmed Polak, MP, Mr. John Frederick Batsas, President and CEO, Telenor Group, Mr. Kabir bin Anwar, Director General, Admin, PMO, Project Director, A2I, and Mr. Naimuzzaman Mukta, Head of Partnership and Communication, A2I. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome on stage Mr. Anir Chaudhary, Policy Advisor, A2I, Prime Minister's Office, to share his presentation.
Thank you. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I think Matt has done my job a little easier. This MOU actually marks a major milestone in our journey of digital Bangladesh. Our Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, by 2021, is seeing a vision for Bangladesh that is transformed. And what I'm about to talk about is a few stories of transformation, few stories of change. In the morning session, the speakers, especially our Honorable ICT Advisor and our Honorable ICT State Minister, they talked about the progress that the country has already made and the infrastructure that are being put in place to support that progress and also support us in that continuing journey. I'll talk about specific snippets, things that Matt talked about that will be achieved in a greater way than we have already achieved. So let's take a look at a few examples. 200,000 sugarcane farmers are getting SMS instead of this small piece of paper that they used to get since 1932 as a purchase order from the sugar mills. And this has transformed their lives, because what used to happen before is that the larger farmers, the more fortunate farmers sometimes, would get these purchase orders ahead of time and they would make more money because their canes would weigh more. Now it's actually done through an SMS server on a schedule, and thanks to the 200,000 mobile phones in the hands of all farmers, that they're getting their fair price. Let's talk about education. What used to happen even 3 years ago is that a high school graduate, let's say from a southern district, especially if she's a woman, would have to travel to every single university, public university that she would want to apply to. So Sylhet, Rajshahi, Dhaka, Chittagong, Khulna. Let's say she stays in Patuakhali. So for those of you who don't know the geography of Bangladesh, it may be a little difficult, but I'm talking about public universities all over the country. So she would have to go to every university 3 times, once to collect the form, next to actually take the fee and filling out all that form, submit that form, and third time to actually get the examination results. And obviously in the middle, she has to actually travel to take the exam. So 4 different trips. So this one SMS that is tied to the university database, which is again tied to the 10 education boards that we have, has eliminated three trips. So she sends an SMS. If you look at the time, it went down from 20 days to 1 day. It's actually not even 1 day. It's a few seconds, it's a few minutes perhaps. Cost has gone down from 2,000 taka to about 2 to 24 taka, depending on how many SMS she's sending. And visit has gone from 3 to 0. And what we are seeing is that the number of women applying to public universities has actually come up in the last 3 years, from 25% of all the applicants to 33% of all the applicants. So that's the transformation that we are seeing in tertiary education. Let's talk about secondary education. Our Honorable ICT Advisor talked about 25,000 multimedia classrooms in 25,000 secondary schools of the country. Along with that, we have 60,000 teachers who are now interacting over this virtual platform called Teachers Portal. And this is basically unleashing a new era of teacher training, because they teach each other now, which is unprecedented. And a new era of teacher training and classroom education is actually being born to this portal. You can imagine that this portal has a lot of content. So we will talk about content in one of the panels later on. And content means bandwidth. And the more content you generate, the more bandwidth you need. And that's an exponential situation, right? So that's where the mobile operators, the MNOs, actually have a lot to offer in the mix. And that's what we want to do with Telenor Digital, hopefully. Maternal health, child health. This one service called Aponjon, which is being done by the Ministry of Health, and a local NGO with the support of USAID is actually sending text messages and voice messages to pregnant women. So far they have basically registered about 1.3 million pregnant women who get every week a message that helps her through her pregnancy and 1 year after childbirth. So that's 40 weeks and 50, so 92 weeks of messaging that she gets on a regular schedule every week. And that has again transformed maternal health and hopefully child health as well. Talk about land. Our ICT advisor talked about that transformation that has already happened in land offices. We have 64 district record rooms, which contain about 45 million land records. And this is a vital lifeline for our citizens. And what they used to do before introduction of these services, they would have to travel to these 64 district offices. It would take a large amount of money. The hassle would be tremendous. And they would also have to go through unnecessary procedures to just apply for a land record. What has happened now is that the 64 district record rooms have been connected to the 4,500 union digital centers that we heard about in the morning. And in the last 2.5 years, we've been able to deliver about 3.2 million land records to this system. Again, the time, cost, and the number of visits has come down dramatically. Our ICT advisor talked about the savings in the morning, so about 60 million for the government, and about 60 million for the citizens and 10 million for the government that has already been achieved per year. This number will actually increase significantly once we're able to do this in a better way. And for that, we need better connectivity and more reliable bandwidth. This one concept that we have introduced within the service providers called TCV. We are redefining innovation as TCV, something that reduces time, cost, and the number of visits for citizens, not for the government, but for citizens. If you look at some of these services, birth registration, citizen certificates, electricity bill payment, mobile banking, that are all being done through these digital centers, thousands of digital centers across the country, you will see that the time dimension has come down by about 90%. The cost dimension has come down by about maybe 40 to 50%. And the number of visits have also come down significantly. So this is a very simple codification of innovation that we have introduced within the government. And this is taken the fancy of the service providers. And they understand what innovation now means. And they're actually marching to this tune. Last year in June, about a year ago, we launched a mega portal. We think this is the largest government portal of its kind in the local language in the world. So it has about 25,000 government offices under one umbrella, about 2 million content. And last count, about a few days ago, we are seeing about 2 million visitors every day on an average to this portal because it houses such a wealth of information. Again, think about the potential of servicing this information not only over the internet, but also over mobile phones. So we can obviously strategize around this mega portal that we have created, a lot of content. We believe in partnerships. So today's MOU is really a demonstration of that. We have partnered with 350 organizations, half of which are private sector, who are actually putting in content on various livelihood issues, agriculture, education, health, human rights, disaster management, into this portal that we call eTotthokosh. It has about 110,000 pages right now, and the number is growing. And again, this is only available over the web today. Think of the potential when this can be made available over mobile phones. 400 services are assimilated in this one portal that we call Sheba Kunjo, or service portal, from 36 agencies. So these are the 400 vital services that have been actually accumulated here. Again, mobile phone could come in, MNOs could actually take a look at this. And again, the MOU that we signed will hopefully help us transform this by delivering this same content over mobile phones. Exactly how that will happen, we'll leave it to your imagination and our design. This one idea that we introduced within the government called service process simplification. Look at this one process. I won't go into the steps of this process. to pay for old age allowance. So this is for those of you who understand Bangla, Boyoshko Bhata. You're familiar with that concept. This old age allowance that is given out to millions of elderly who are underserved, by the way. So it goes through 13 steps in the process, and it's a very cumbersome process for an old woman or an old man to come to a district level or an Upazila level office to go through this very difficult process to get his or her old age allowance. What has happened is we worked with the Ministry of Social Welfare to reduce the number of steps. So that is really what we are calling SPS, Service Process Simplification. It's really BPR, Business Process Engineering, for those of you who understand that term. It's really BPR taken into Bangladeshi context and made into SPS. And what we learned from this is that before digitization, it is highly beneficial to do SPS. And we're working with these 36 agencies right now to do massive numbers of SPS, because we have 400 process maps and we can turn them into digitized services. But before doing digitization, we want to simplify them for the citizens, because what would happen otherwise, you'd complicate, or you would rather digitize the complication. We want to digitize simplification. This forms portal that we also launched last year with our honorable speaker of the parliament, 1,000 forms from about 100 or so departments of the government. Every service within the government starts with filling out a form. And before, again, just to get to that form would require high TCV, high time, high cost, and high number of visits. Today, the button, you can download a form. And again, this portal is being transformed into a submission portal as well. So not only you'll be able to download, but you'll be able to actually submit to this portal. Again, it's not mobile ready. So again, huge potential there. Before I conclude, I'd like to talk about two things. One is incubation of innovation. We talk about in an innovative country. It is an innovative country indeed, because we have survived the greatest floods and the droughts and the cyclones and also man-made disasters, and kept our growth rate to over 6%. Throughout times when other countries have actually seen negative growth or possibly very little growth. So it is a testament to our resilience. So what we now know very well, that there is a wealth of innovative ideas outside of the government. And that brings us to the point of Service Innovation Fund. We launched this about 2 years ago with the help of our Honorable Finance Minister. In the last 2 years, we received about 2,200 proposals. We've been able to award 65. And if you look at the range of possibilities in that list, digital talking books with the visually disabled children. All our textbooks are actually being turned into digital talking books. So a person visually challenged can actually navigate a computer and listen to the books, any section of the book, by actually doing markup. There is a government officer from an unknown place in the country who has proposed a crop disease diagnostic system, which is now being piloted and hopefully will be scaled up. We have a company, a startup, which is developing a very low-cost education device, which will run on solar power, so that all the 25,000 multimedia classrooms that we have built that don't run when there is no electricity, because electricity comes and goes sometimes, it'll be running on solar power. So that low-cost solar-powered computer will actually make these 25,000 multimedia classrooms functional in the truest sense. We have a university department developing low-cost medical diagnostics device, so that doctors sitting in urban areas will be able to listen to the heartbeat of a patient sitting in a rural area, sitting in a community health clinic, or sitting in the Union Digital Center. There is a student group that has developed a mother and child app, which is going to be scaled up by the Ministry of Health. So it's a very useful app for the health workers and also for mothers who have children across the country. So we think it'll have the largest impact initially with the health workers, and then probably also with citizens. 3D printing, a company has come forward with a very low-cost 3D printer to print artificial limbs. Again, an innovation that we could not have come up with within the government. E-learning platform for migrant workers. Every year we send about 400,000 people to different countries, and we can only train about 70,000 of them. So the rest are go untrained. So an e-learning platform, again, has to be mobile enabled. Right now it's not. It's being designed by Open University and our Bureau of Manpower. And then educational games, e-commerce platforms for rural women, these are also possibilities that we have funded. So this is experimentation, but we think this experimentation will actually yield great rewards. Matt talked about mHealth. I think one of the first areas that Telenor Digital is interested in is really mobile health. So what are the possibilities here? Remote consultation from the 4,500 Union Digital Centers and the 15,000 plus community clinics. Shared health records, which is really our electronic health record that will make the universal health coverage that is part of SDG, Sustainable Development Goals, come true. This is going to be launched in the next few months. Again, it requires a lot more partnership with MNOs, and possibly Telenor Digital can actually play a great role here. Moderation of health workers' visit schedules. What happens is that the health workers today go from door to door through a predetermined visit, and sometimes crisis happens and the visit schedule has to be changed. And again, we are developing intelligent systems that will alter that visit schedule depending on health crisis. Monitoring data collection through low-cost devices. This is already being started by the Health Ministry. Again, there is great partnership possibilities that can come up there. Health apps, I've talked about one, there can be many more. We are going to launch a new TV station, or rather a new way of doing TV through the Parliament TV. That's we're calling Human Development Media. Again, lots of health awareness programs and awareness campaigns on education, on disaster management could actually go through this new TV channel. And we're hoping that, again, content that we produce will come from mobile companies, will come from many different content providers, will come from basis members, will come from the government, and will be channeled through Human Development Media, which will integrate TV, radio, internet, and social media. Health insurance. Again, this will be built on top of the shared health records platform for the bottom of the pyramid market. Again, we need large technological innovations there. So the last question, or really the only question, I haven't really asked any question yet. So only question that I want to ask is this, are we at a tipping point? Are we seeing the tip of an iceberg and the avalanche effect is yet to come? I think we are at that point. I think there is exponential growth that we are looking at, but for that, we need a number of things. We need reliable and affordable broadband. I think several speakers in the morning talked about this. We need to upscale the content and services that have been built, and we need new content and services as well. We need a win-win ecosystem. There are many different players, government, private sector, content providers, MNOs, regulator. So we need to really work on together to build a win-win ecosystem. And our hope is that Telenor Digital has developed win-win ecosystems in other countries. And we're looking at, we specialize in our requirements, but we may not know fully what a win-win ecosystem that is sustainable would look like. And we would like to work with Telenor Digital on this. And lastly, but not least, incubation of innovation. I think we really need to incubate innovation and not just hope that they will happen on their own. There are innovators that we are seeing across the country. They're coming to us to our innovation fund. We're going to Dholaikal. For those of you who know Dholaikal, it's an innovation platform. They make light engineering devices. So any device you can give to them, electromechanical, they will reproduce it within a few days. So we are on the lookout for innovators there, but we need to incubate them. We need to bring them into the fold of mature advice, and great strength for the country will actually come out of those innovators. This is one quote that we remind ourselves in A2I. This is really our driving mantra within A2I. It's from this British playwright, George Bernard Shaw. The reasonable man adapts himself to the world. The unreasonable one persists in trying to adapt the world to himself. Therefore, all progress depends on the unreasonable man. So let's try to be unreasonable through this MOU. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anil Chaudhary, for the wonderful presentation. And now we're going to have another panel discussion on the biggest driver for ICT industry growth: innovation, investment, policy support. The discussion will be moderated by Mr. Russell T. Ahmed, Senior Vice President, BASIS. Mr. Russell T. Ahmed.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good afternoon, all of you. Let me take the pleasure first by inviting all our esteemed panel members for this panel discussion. We have among us Ms. Sonia Bashir Kabir, Managing Director of Microsoft Bangladesh; Mr. Abrar A. Anwar, Chief Executive Officer, Standard Chartered Bank Bangladesh; Mr. Syed Farhad Ahmed, Managing Director, Amra Companies; and Mr. Nazim Farhan Chaudhary from Graphic People. We are glad to see among the esteemed audience, we're really proud to see Mr. Junaid Ahmed Polok, the Honorable State Minister among us, among the audience, Mr. Frederick Baxis, and Shunil Kanti Bose. Thank you for being with us. So request to be with us throughout the whole panel discussion. Thank you very much. Thank you once again. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, very good afternoon. As you can see, the topic of today's discussion, innovation versus investment or policy advocacy or policy support, which is going to drive the digital investment and which is going to drive the ICT business in Bangladesh. As a matter of fact, for the last few years, couples of years, we have been continuously seeing that innovation is taking place, new investment is coming up, but the expected growth from the both private sector point of view and the government point of view, we have been taking various initiatives, but the amount of growth we expect to expedite that growth in the sector of Bangladesh ICT, we are here today to discuss. It's not a debate, though it sounds like innovation or policy support or investment. It's not a debate, but we'd like to reach somewhere through these esteemed panel members, a diversified panel members we have. We have a representative from from Microsoft, being one of the largest software company. She has another introduction, which I will come to you. And we have representative from the financial sector. We have representative from the software business houses. I'll start with Farhad Bhai, Syed Farhad Ahmed. As many of you are aware, he represents one of the large ICT companies in Bangladesh called Amra Companies. Further, you are in business. You are basically specifically in ICT business for more than 30 years now, and unlike the majority of our ICT organizations, you don't belong to SME anymore. You employ roughly around 400, 500 people already. From the national perspective, from the ICT industry perspective, how do you see the potential challenges and the opportunities for the SMEs to grow as a large business house and to attract the big business houses, internationally renowned business houses coming into Bangladesh from both the challenge and the opportunities point of view. You have seen yourself, so from your experiences, please share.
Thank you. Thank you, Russell, for the introduction. Amra is actually a little bit bigger now. We're growing every day. We're close to 1,000 employees now, actually. And, I think to answer that question, let me take a step back and talk about not just SMEs, but even a lot of what I feel is very strong potential in Bangladesh, where we have a lot of hidden talent, even amongst individuals, even amongst a lot of students who Amra has had the privilege to work with through their respective educational institutions. And I strongly feel that, you know, let me start by just making one quote, which is from the cover of Time magazine, where the Facebook founder, Mark Zuckerberg, made a very powerful statement. This was in the December issue of Time. And he said that half the world is not enough. The plan is to get every human online. Now, that's a very, very powerful statement. That is a statement which, if you kind of digress, can mean that up after a certain point in time, any human that is not online is questionable. You know, are they on this planet? Are they part of our community? And based on fundamentals like that, I think companies like Amra, and I'm sure many others in this room, you know, we have one common goal. So when we look at business, and I think that common goal, especially for a country like Bangladesh, which is developing, you know, by the minute, I think the common goal should be that we should focus on developing businesses which have a direct or at least an indirect positive social impact. That is what, you know, it should be. And that is what all of Amra businesses are. And I'm sure, like I said, many others in the room are the same. But in terms of innovation and all that, it's very nice to want to say that, yes, we want to create a platform for innovation. We want to encourage youngsters, new startups, and all that. But there are certain challenges. And I think I would like to describe that in a layman's point of view, that for as we look at it, individuals, SMEs, corporations, large corporations are like vehicles. Okay? So you can have a small vehicle, you can have a medium size, a large, and then a super jumbo or an A380 vehicle. We find that in different countries, there's different environments in terms of roads, in terms of highways, in terms of tunnels, in terms of bridges. And many of infrastructure like that can be built along the way. It's easy to look at the government and say we expect the government to do everything. I think that's unfair. And I'm not a government employee, but I'm speaking on behalf of them. It's a group effort. It has to happen from both the public and the private sector. But the government can set the right precedents. I think the government is always the incumbent which sets the right policies for doing that. But coming back to the scenario, think of it that there are vehicles and there's infrastructure in roads, bridges, tolls, where you can actually monetize with tolls. So to cross a bridge, you pay a toll. To cross a tunnel, to use a superhighway or of any sort. And keeping that in mind, I think the focus for both the public and private sector is to, number one, ensure the drivers of each of those vehicles is well trained. That's where education comes in. And at the same time, to be able to fuel or provide fuel for those vehicles so that we can ensure that each and every vehicle has an opportunity to use one of those roads. And the minute we can do that, I think the monetization comes automatically, because you will see that there will be a lot more roads and by-lanes and smaller bridges and tolls and parking lots, and the sky is the limit. So in a nutshell, I think, Russell, the real effort has to come from both the private and public sector combined. There should be a concerted effort. Personally, I've met Polak and expressed our dream. He was very kind and I think very perceptive, because the first thing he said was, let's just make sure that We have had an initiative from the government side, and you from the private sector, and anyone else who might be in that sector. Let's put our notes together and ensure that instead of overlapping, let's go in and make sure we can cover as much as we can in a combined effort. And it's the spirit like that that makes the difference. And that's why I think we should emphasize more on this kind of efforts where we can share and exchange information.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I'll come back with the next round of questions. I've taken some notes from your what you have said. I'll move to Farhan Bhai. Operating one of the largest BPOs in Bangladesh, already about a decade now, 10 years almost. When we talk about BPO, scaling up the BPO revenue, there are many challenges we have been talking about, starting from investment point of view, doing the proper country branding, many challenges we were talking about. Is there any particular policy support, any particular government initiative, or any particular industry perspective initiative do you think we need to consider from your experience, which will help us scale up the BPO revenue to meet our vision as we have declared $1 billion by 2018?
Thank you for inviting me to talk. I would think there are, first of all, I would like to agree with Farhan Bhai that we often leave everything to the government to do. And that's not fair either on the government or on us. Usually, if you let the private sector give them a much more freer hand, we find solutions to a lot of our problems that unfortunately might not be something that can come only from the government. Two areas that you pointed out, one is the country branding you mentioned in your conversation or in your question, and other I think is human resource. These are the two areas I think needs some focus. I'm luckily or unluckily in a very interesting position. I actually work in 3 industries. I work, basically I'm a branding professional, so I'm in the advertising industry. So I wear that hat. Sometimes I wear the IT hat as the leader of one of the larger BPOs. And I also happen to wear the tourism hat once in a while because I run a tourism company. I actually have 2 hotels that I run. When it comes to country branding, I have a feeling that a lot of the focus on the country branding aspect has become on the tourism side. It's about visit Bangladesh as opposed to invest in Bangladesh. And I think that focus needs to sort of maybe shift. Internationally, if you're actually now looking at country branding, most of the country branding is about how great Indonesia is as an investment opportunity, Macedonia is for an investment opportunity, so on and so forth. And that shift needs to happen. Internationally, it's usually the head of state or the head of government who takes on the charge as the chief branding officer. And I think that focus needs to be corrected as a policy side. Other is on the human resource side. I think there are a lot of efforts that are being talking about 30,000 trained people, 40,000 trained people, but you're talking about a country that produces 1 million people into in the job market every year. So we're not talking about 30,000. Idea is how do I go to the million? Now, often in policy, I see a dichotomy. On one side, you're saying that we want big companies to come in and grow, but at the same time, you're putting a lot of emphasis on freelancers. And somebody who's looking at the job market then gets confused. Do I be a freelancer? Do I get into a company? And once I get into a company, where do I get my mid-management? Where do I get my top management from? And unfortunately, because of the emphasis on freelancers, we're not getting enough people to go through the whole sort of systems. We're not getting enough workers. So one of the things that keeps me up at night is that now I have 400 people, but how do I get to 4,000? And how is that possible? What do we do? So that's, I think, the 2 challenges we need help on or we need to talk about when it comes to policy. Another one small one, I think, is that bandwidth costs are still, I mean, it's come down drastically. Bandwidth costs are still extremely high. Now, if we can give bandwidth to the Italians at very low price, we should be able to give bandwidth to last mile providers at a to the ISPs at low costs, so that they in turn put the service charge and then sell it on to the end user at a fraction of the cost. And then you let, as Parvai was putting the analogy of a highway, you put the highway there, the ecosystem will grow and businesses will come up.
On the next round, I'll be coming with the question with regard to infrastructure. Can we use the advantage of geographic location of Bangladesh in minimizing the cost? Because outsourcing, if we take up the internet out of Dhaka, and in that case, does that help to grow? So that's the next question. I'll be coming to you in the next round. As both of you, both Farhad Bhai and Farhan Bhai, both of you mentioned about the one thing that private sector should go on its own, and we should not wait for the government to help us. Exactly, side by side. As a matter of fact, in the last couple of years, what we have seen, government is no longer reactive. Government is being proactive, which is highly appreciable. And especially after the appointment of such dynamic minister, followed by in this particular ministry, we have seen a lot enthusiasm, a lot of efforts that have been taken jointly, private and publicly. So we'll touch base there in the next round. My next question to Abrar Bhai, someone who has come from outside the ICT industry and to actually make our panel more colorful. Abrar Bhai, from your, I'm not going there. You are leading the leading bank, financial institution in Bangladesh, Standard Chartered Bank, and let me take the pleasure of officially once again congratulating you, the first Bangladeshi CEO of Standard Chartered Bank. You have seen the global perspective. You have seen the local market. Do you think, considering the fact, yes, we have a very few number of large companies representing ICT, but the majority are actually SMEs. Investment, simplicity. The simplicity of investment towards the SME, whether it is angel funding or it is VC funding or it is a regular bank financing, how we can actually simplify this to help the upcoming new generation investment who are actually making investment in small organizations to grow them up.
Thank you very much. Basically, I will be speaking from our institutional understanding, what we see here as well as globally, what we have seen. We've been here 110 years, so we have grown with the country, and we have seen companies like Grameenphone starting from zero to what they are today. So, I mean, we have that exposure of seeing how this type of companies have invested over the years to build the ecosystem that we see today. So I think before going into the SME, I would think that we will need infrastructure to support the SME to have an overall ecosystem where companies, small companies can thrive. So if you look at the ICT, the basic thing that we need is the infrastructure around where you will need larger investments. So just before going into the SME, I would look at, there are some issues that we need to handle in the investment in the infrastructure for growth of ICT in the countries quickly. Is this has to happen from international investments. There has to be investment coming as an FDI, and also there has to be enabling environment whereby investors can mitigate their long-term capital risk, mitigate their foreign exchange risk or interest rate risk. So there are some initiatives being taken by the central bank, being driven by the large corporations like Grameenphone, Accenture is here. They also need some support. So I think we need to look at how these infrastructure providers for the ICT to thrive are being looked at. So there are some definitely support required in those areas. Now coming back to the SME, for example, to tell you frankly, at this point in time, no bank is capable of financing the software developers and so on and so forth. Because this is looked at as a more equity play. That means either you have your own money or somebody is providing your equity, because risk of losing that investment can be high. So that's where the concept of angel funds comes into play, venture capital and private equity and so on and so forth. At different stages of evolution, this type of funds will be required. Why this type of funding are not available, if you ask that question, is because there are some exchange regulations that sort of does not encourage this type of funding. For example, angel funds, what do we know of angel funds? They are high risk takers. They will be investing in companies, thinking that there will be an upside 5 years, 7 years down the line. Their expectation is also around 15–20% return. If we consider that type of funding will be coming from outside, because we don't have that much of funds available in the country as yet, but then they will need an exit. They will be needing an exit through either an IPO, but what I think in the morning, Honorable Advisor to the Prime Minister mentioned, Mr. Sajib Wajid mentioned, the thinking of a mid-cap to small-cap capital market. That will be an exit route for the angel funds after a while. So that can be a good option. Another can be some sort of approval or guideline from the central bank that put option in this sector, if you give a put option, that means you sell it back to the original entrepreneur at what rate. Recently there has been a circular whereby central bank is allowing sort of exit of investors through some discounted cash flow or future cash flow, not just net asset value. So that's a positive development. However, to support the ICT sector or the software developer or the SMEs, a bit more needs to be done. So that is there. So now looking at the loan providers. Loan providers still look for some collateral. So that's why you need strong, I would say, IP, intellectual property pledge registry, that type of thing, whereby you can actually pledge the intellectual property and against that you can fund, provided it can be properly valued. So saying that, like, the banks are still not really capable of really financing SMEs that are into this type of industry. So we really have to scale up. Similarly, we need policy support, as well as, I think at this point in time, the enablers supporting the large infrastructure providers like CMEV4, we have got these fiber optic cables, telecom sector support, how they can accelerate their investment, capital, how we can allow access of capital, how we can make it more enabled. I think that's critical from my perspective.
Thank you very much. I have taken my notes, and in the second round, we'll come up with the next question from the points you have mentioned. Coming to the only lady in the panel, and Sonia Appa. Many of us, we know that you have spent a long time in Silicon Valley. You have one hat leading Microsoft Bangladesh. The other hand is Sonia Appa. She's the president of TIE, the Entrepreneurs, an American organization of all the entrepreneurs who help the next generation to grow. So you lead TIE in Dhaka chapter. You have seen the innovations point of view in the US market and in the Bangladesh market as well. My question is very straight because I have seen in the morning and now there are few young entrepreneurs are also here. The innovations, if an innovation from Bangladesh and an innovation from US, how do you see it? Do they get some extra advantage because of accessibility to the investors or a better policy framework? Do our Bangladeshi innovations having the same skill sets and creativity, do they lack due to this whether it is better accessibility to financing or a policy support, they're falling behind. So just compare an innovation in US and an innovation in Bangladesh to grow.
Thank you, Russell. First of all, I think innovation as a term is relative. What it means in the United States or where I was in Silicon Valley, where the market is very mature, is different than what it would perhaps mean in an emerging market like my country or our country, Bangladesh. So just to give you an example, in Bangladesh, there's in order to innovate, we really need to look at the bottom of the pyramid. 85% of the population is unbanked. There are a lot of things that they are not getting. When we innovate, are we looking at the bottom of that pyramid, or are we looking at we want to have some cool product like a core banking software or an ERP, but those are available? So I think that's where the difference is. When I was in Silicon Valley, you're flying at an altitude of 40,000 foot level, and you're looking at what is happening in your economy, and you're looking for areas of improvement. When you innovate, it is a bit harder because you've got legacy issues. You cannot overnight morph from zero to state of the art in a mature economy because you have a whole legacy to carry with you. In our country, Bangladesh, we have no legacy. We really need to focus on problems that exist and then innovate. Sometimes I feel that we are looking at a solution and then we create a product and we are waiting for the problem to arrive. And that really doesn't solve the problem of the country. So innovation for Bangladesh is really looking at some hardcore problems. And I refer back to Anir's slides. He mentioned a lot of things that are really needed in order for us to improve. So it's not really about investment. It's not about policy. It's not about infrastructure from my point of view. It's really about what is needed. And then if you build, they will follow. So just bKash is one of the biggest success stories of Bangladesh around mobile financial services. Why has it been so successful? Because it has reached to the masses. It has reached to people who have the money to do a bKash and who have the need for bKash. That's innovation. I could be doing something very cool, but if there's no user, I don't really call that innovation. So that answers your first question.
Thank you very much. So I'll start my second round with Farhan Bhai, since I have given you the clue. Do you think that we have got SIMU-4, we have got the second submarine fiber, and as you can see that infrastructure actually going everywhere. You have mentioned about HR challenges, government and the donor agencies and bases. So we are going through two major projects. You are also aware. One is called LICT, which is majorly funded by the World Bank, executed by Ministry of ICT Division and BASIS. And the other program is an ADB funded project, which is BASIS is executing. The LICT project, we are targeting to train 34,000 skilled human resource in 4 years' time. And the ADB project, we are targeting to train 23,000 human resource in 3 years' time. If the human resource issue is addressed, do you think that if the outsourcing organizations, do they have any potential to go geographically beyond Dhaka? Will that help the industry? And my complementary question is, do you have any specific advice? How can we actually make an outsourcing organization from 100 to 500, or maybe 500 to 5,000? How can you go there?
Right. Well, I know this 55,000 jobs you're talking about is 55,000 more than we have now. But is that adequate? We're talking about 1 million people do their HSC SSC every year. Are you doing a million? And that's the target that needs to do. So it's not just doing a project by somebody funds a project to do. It's a total rehauling of the educational system itself. It's a focus on tertiary, technical training. It's talking about even in the primary level, starting to do better. I remember a famous quote to Mahathir said that he really wanted computer scientists to come up. So he started education in the kindergarten. We didn't talk about tertiary education. So he said 20 years it'll take. That's what they're doing. That's what China has done. China, everybody thinks India is the leader in IT. Wait another 10 years, you'll see the Chinese coming up because they've been investing in their education systems. So when I'm talking about education reform, I'm talking about a structural change in the education and setup. Your question about infrastructure, infrastructure is getting better.
Geographically moving away from that.
Infrastructure itself is getting better. I mean, we have less power outage than we had 3 years ago or 4 years ago. We have bandwidth prices are lower. It's much more efficient, so on and so forth. So things are getting better, which is great. I happen to operate in one of the most expensive real estate, pay the highest salaries, have very expensive utility costs, but I'm still one of the cheapest in the world. So I'm not really worried about infrastructure. Geography is, you shouldn't look at business in isolation. Business is part of the ecosystem. So moving outside Dhaka, yes, but if you give me free land out in Kaliakor or wherever you want to give me, would I move my business? No, because my engineers have families. They need to send the children to school. They can't stay away from them. They need entertainment. They need their ecosystem that they live in. That needs to be also transplanted. So it's very difficult to do that. Dhaka itself attracts best talents from everywhere. So yes, we can go ahead and do that sort of geographic outreach, but Bangladesh is not a very big country. It's 6 hours from anywhere to Dhaka. Well, given traffic, it was 6 hours from Dhangoli to here as well. But mostly, it's not a big city. So you could viably sort of make sort of Dhaka the hub, or outskirts, or Mary and Dhaka the hub, and still grow the business. And so the question then comes to us, and that's the question, and in our board we keep talking about, how do I go from 300, 400 to 3,000, 4,000? That's our target. But our goal is already, how do I go 30, 40, 50,000? And again, the biggest headache would be not financing. It won't be access to market. It won't be infrastructure. It won't be policy. It will be human resource. There are people out there, but are they ready enough to be employed by us?
Thank you very much. Thank you. From the business point of view, it's a little different question I'm asking to you. We hardly see in the last couple of decades that the so-called or the leading business houses, no matter they represent ICT or do not, we haven't seen much of examples that the established large business houses made their investment in ICT. Well, you may say that the global scenario, Bill Gates came with an innovation, Steve Jobs came with an innovation, but in terms of making a direct investment or equity investment, how can we attract them? Let me not name them, but how can we attract the leading Bangladeshi business houses towards ICT so that they find an upcoming new generation innovation and invest them in terms of actually pie size will go bigger. So how can we actually attract them to come and invest in ICT? I'm talking about the local part.
Thank you, Russell. But I think I'll just pick up a little bit from what some of the other speakers said, and we'll easily find the answer to that. If you remember what Abrar was saying about providing a transparent or a clear exit strategy, even for foreign investors. I think as companies grow to larger day by day, you'll find that they tend to, I think, fall into that similar category where they're also looking at, there's some ICT is new to them. In many cases, they are not. A lot of the founders may not be IT savvy, but they would like to invest. They want to invest in young entrepreneurs or young startups, but they want to see also a clear exit strategy. So where Abrar touched upon was provide platforms or create a smaller bourse where there could be a clear entry and exit strategy for investors. Because you have to understand that even a local large investor is exactly that. He's an investor. He or she is an investor. The entity is an investor, and they want to have that clear exit strategy. I can't help but comment on one point, because I was watching some of the presentations this morning and some of the beautiful initiatives done by Telenor Group, Accenture, and even our Prime Minister's office and all that. But there's one fundamental, I think, item needed for any of those systems to work, and that is connectivity. And today, connectivity, I've heard the term broadband, I've heard the term fiber optic, and so on, or 3G and 4G. We being also in that space, but the minute you talk about 3G and 4G, to me, any frequency has its limitation. And I think the consumption of data worldwide is growing, and I think the sky is the limit where that is. Nobody can really put a cap and say it stops here, because each and every day we're getting, I think telecom providers and network service providers around the world are getting overwhelmed with the demand. So I think it really has to grow leaps and bounds. I think we have to address the demand for data or broadband, or I want to call it, in multiple areas, not just 3G and 4G, but fiber optic and a combination of everything. What Amra is doing is a little bit different also. We're focusing also on building the first cloud, localized cloud in Bangladesh. Now, what is a local cloud? Many of us I think everyone in this room is using a cloud service of some sort. Either we're on Facebook, we're on Gmail, or Bing, or so Sonia's here. I have to mention Bing. She'll shoot me otherwise. And the interesting thing is everyone is using something on the cloud. Now, let's say we're watching a video on YouTube. Does anyone ever check or even want to know which YouTube server we are accessing that video from? Is it the YouTube server in California? Is it the one in Norway? Is it the one in Japan, in India, in Singapore? We don't even ask. What we want as a user is we want a good user experience. Now, Amra is taking that to a different level here in Bangladesh, because we're hosting a lot of these mirror servers and cache servers locally. So the whole idea or concept behind it is to not only depend on the internet or the internet cloud, but to give a better experience, we can actually create an intranet based on a local platform. And we're rolling out this year, in fact, later this month, we'll be rolling out the Amra Smart solution, which addresses that. And I think that will help in increasing the reach for every single Bangladeshi, regardless of a budget, because we can then actually not have, Farhan mentioned that the cost of internet is coming down, but with the intranet, we're creating a whole new platform by ourselves. And the browsing experience, as many techies in this room will know, it's like using a local LAN as opposed to the internet. And the whole browsing experience at the end of the day is totally different. So it's innovation like that. Coming back to addressing problems, what Sonia said, and that's so true, that how you have to address a problem. Each and every community is different. Each and every community is unique. And you have to address and build solutions around problems for those communities.
Thank you very much. I have been signaled that we have time limitations. BASIS now have question to you, Abrar bhai. We have, we started, we were formed in 1997 with, I guess, 12 members. Now we have 850 plus members. And again, majority of them are SMEs. And most of the members of BASIS, they work in two verticals. One is outsourcing and the other is product development. And again, if you want to reach the global market, if you want to achieve global revenue, bring the revenue in Bangladesh, we have to work in these two verticals. Now, as you have mentioned, the IP thing, the product vertical, the BASIS member companies are coming up with good products now. We don't have the very strong IP law as of today. BASIS is trying to negotiate with the government to come up with a very strong IP law. If that has happened, can banking system, the regular banking system, will find it a good way of doing the proper valuation, because the regular valuation of BC, these are all established system now to invest in create help these SMEs of our local industry. Once the IP law is set, properly valuation you can do, because collateral, the regular collateral is very difficult for the upcoming new generation to offer any sort of collateral to. So is there any possibility you see, or
No, actually, definitely, because at the end of the day, banks look at the possible cash flows. If there is a definitive cash flow projection, because at the end of the day, banks are not in the business of selling collateral. It's just a matter of getting secured or something like that. So if there is a proper mechanism to value these intellectual properties, and then you can project the cash flow that this product may generate so much, then definitely it's a financeable opportunity. So that is possible. And I think getting back on, that's a intellectual capital and so human capital. It's important. For example, which company is doing it? Is it only one person, or it has got it's got a team of developers? So what is there any key man risk, or there are people who are developing and they are churning all these products? So it will all depend on the circumstances and what type of entity that has emerged. For example, today's SMEs are tomorrow's large corporates. So they have to start somewhere. So I think it's if there is a proper evaluation done and there is a protection against the intellectual property, it will be financeable.
Thank you very much. Sonia, the question to you is, Bangladeshi startup going global. Recommendations, suggestions, tips from your side.
I think we should be very disruptive in our thinking, challenge and define the status quo, be successful locally before you think of being a global player, because you have enough problems to solve in Bangladesh. So really think local, act local before you go global. I know it's in all our DNA to think that I will be, NASDAQ listed or NASCOM listed, but that's not a real dream. So start local and be very disruptive. That's my message.
Thank you. Very clear-cut message. Thank you. Hope our startups will learn a lot from you. Any question from the audience? Questions, comments, anything? Yes, please.
It's not really a big question, but an underlining maybe. What we heard now is connectivity is a very strong driver for the question behind you. Then education, to broaden the educational base into the direction of the digital space as such. Then you have two very strong drivers for potential value creation in the ICT space. And if we can use this occasion, this investment summit, to concentrate efforts in that direction in the coming year, I'm pretty sure that you can gradually move the needle to become visible and competitive. There is 160 million people in this country that is in need of digital services. They will have big appetite for the digital services, and it will gradually also contribute to grow the GDP with a consequential distribution also into the population. So there are many good drivers, I would argue, on this journey to the digital Bangladesh. That's my comment. Thank you.
Absolutely. Can't agree with you more. Thank you very much, Mr. Baxis. Well, as you have rightly mentioned, this sort of digital summit is just an initiative. I'm sure we'll take the discussions that we're having since morning, we'll take it forward. We'll take our learning from these discussions we have had throughout the whole day, and what can be done, how can we take these discussions into implementable reality and take the digital Bangladesh, the initiatives from both the government and private sector forward. And at the same time, we look forward from BASIS side and Telenor side that we look forward to having such summit in future again and again. Since we have Mr. Junaid Ahmed Polok among us, the unquestionable dynamic leader that we have found in the ICT sector, we have discussed many things about government and all. May I request Polok Bhai to share your remarks on this particular discussion that we have? Can we have the microphone to Polok?
Thank you, Mr. Russell, for giving me the opportunity to share something, my views, government views. This innovation, investment, and policy support, we believe on, and we are encouraging the innovation. You know that we have a Prime Minister's Office A2I project, one public service innovation fund. Every year we are giving a small amount of money to who are submitting some innovation projects. And also our ICT division, we have one innovation fund, and our Honorable Prime Minister, she increased the limit of the fund. It was previously only 2 lakhs, but now it's increased to 20 lakhs. So I think every project, any startups or any new idea, anyone can come and submit their projects before ICT division or A2I project to have some fund for their innovative and creative projects. And also investment, you know that we are doing a lot of things. You know that this ICT sector is very new. What our Honorable Advisor mentioned in his presentation, it's only 20 years of age, this ICT or digital economy. But if you look at the traditional business or customs or taxation, that was like 100 years legacy. So I think as a new ministry, ICT division is trying to have to review this ICT policy, and we had a very good meeting with Finance Minister, with our some industry leader. You know that. So we hope that in coming budget session we'll have some incentives and also some supports from government side. And the policy support, you know that we first time we introduced ICT policy in the history of Bangladesh since 2009, and now we are trying to have a review of the ICT policy and also telecom policy, broadband policy. So I hope that within a very short time we'll have this kind of policy reformation, what our industry need, what is our ICT sector required. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Polok. Thank you very much. We look forward to seeing the continuous effort that we have been taking, and we must appreciate your gesture in terms of organizing and taking various initiatives jointly by public and private, government and private sector. That's undoubtedly something to appreciate, and we have been talking about it. If this continues, we may bring the Vision 2021 ahead of 2021, inshallah. So finally, one half-a-minute thing to each of you. If you can point which one should come first, innovation, policy, or investment? From Farhan Bhai.
Innovation.
Next. Policy after innovation.
So it's innovation, policy, or
investment.
investment. I would say innovation.
All right. Thank you. Big hand. Farhan Bhai.
in the spirit of multitasking, I say in parallel, we need to focus and grow together in each and every department. That's important.
So you're saying innovation investment policy altogether?
Yeah, I think they have to run in parallel.
All right.
No, I would tend to agree. It has to be an interplay of all these things. You can innovate, but there's no infrastructure to demonstrate the innovation. So my only point is that I think we need to really develop the infrastructure, allow that to flourish. If you give the highway, other things will follow. So focus on investment in the infrastructure. That's what I would say is the top priority.
Thank you. Sunepa.
So I would say innovation, then investment, and then policy.
All right. Okay. Good. All right. So she's looking for investment. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much once again. Thank you, everyone. Thanks all the panel members. Thank you. Thank you, audience. Thank you once again. We have our next session. Thank you very much.
Let me thank the moderator and the panelists for a wonderful discussion. And now I would like to invite on stage Mr. Sami Kazılbaş, Business Head, South Asia Emerging Market, Google, to share his presentation with us. Mr. Kazılbaş.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. I'm very excited. Many of our partners are in the audience here from private sector and public sector. As some of you might know, Google has worked on a few projects in Bangladesh over the last year. Starting last year with a project called the Google Bus Bangladesh. And together with Honorable Minister Palak, we were able to make that a reality. We also launched Android One, a new device together with our private sector partners such as Symphony. And most recently, we actually launched Street View, so Google Maps Street View in partnership with A2I. And we're very, very excited about where Bangladesh is headed now. And today I wanted to share with you a few insights that we received from a research study that we had commissioned with TNS. Now, TNS is a global research company. The team that actually conducted this study in Bangladesh is based in Australia. And I thought before I give any insights, I should give you a little bit of the methodology on how this works, just in case there's any questions that come up around that. So this is the methodology here. There was 1,000 offline surveys and roughly about 1,000 online surveys that were done across the country. It was nationally representative of 16-year-olds and older across the country. It was done halfway through last year, through the end of last year, primarily with men. Unfortunately, that is representative of the internet in Bangladesh at this time, but it's changing. A third of them were university grads, a third were employed, and roughly we saw about 30,000 taka monthly household income from the respondents. So that's a little bit about the background. I'll give you some very interesting insights right from the get-go. It's very clear the internet is coming to Bangladesh in a very, very big way. Now, I believe probably many of the people in this room right now experience the internet a little bit differently than the majority of internet users in Bangladesh. And to demonstrate that, one of the most interesting insights that came out was that 81% of the respondents had actually come onto the internet only in the last 5 years. Only within the last 5 years. Imagine that, 81%. And even more interesting is that over half of them cannot even imagine a world without the internet anymore. So this is how fast the internet has come to Bangladesh. It's made that kind of impact on people. So there's really only 4 things I want to highlight from this study, and if you have interest in seeing the rest of the study, I'd be happy to share that with you all as well. But 4 things. Bangladeshi internet users are actively contributing to the digital conversation. They spend nearly as much time online as they do watching TV. They access the internet primarily through their mobile device. And finally, they want to shop online. I'm going to talk about each one of these in a little bit more detail with some of the data that we were able to uncover with TNS. So firstly, they're active contributors. TNS defines 60% of them as either communicators or influencers, and I'll tell you what that means. So TNS has actually a categorization of internet users, 6 digital lifestyles, and they consist of communicators. Now, communicators are those that just love to talk about everything they're doing to all of their friends. They're on social media, they tell you what they had for breakfast, they tell you everything that's going on, and they just love to communicate and use the internet for that purpose. Knowledge seekers is another type. Knowledge seekers are using the internet to actually understand new things, to educate themselves, to find out what's new, what's happening in their country or the world, and using tools to learn more about things they're interested in. Influencers are, I mean, most simply, they're bloggers, and Bangladesh is certainly a blogger nation. And these are people who want their voice heard in their country or online, right? And the 4th one is aspirers. Now, aspirers are those that don't really use the internet that much currently, but they're really excited about the opportunity that the internet means to them. And so they're trying to learn everything they can about the internet at this time. The 5th is networkers. And networkers, as you can imagine, there's probably many of us here today. We're on LinkedIn. We're reaching out to people. We want to create and establish relationships using the internet. And finally, the functionals. The functionals are those that are using the internet purely for either work purposes, or it might be as simple as, I want to know the weather today. I go online, I check the weather, and I get off. They're not there for social media. They often use desktop rather than mobile, such as the communicators and the influencers use. So let's have a look at how it looks for Bangladesh. As you can see, 40% of Bangladeshi internet users classify themselves as communicators, right? And 20% as influencers. What's also really nice to see is 20% also classify themselves as knowledge seekers. And if we're talking about trends, I could say based on other countries in the region and where we've done this study with TNS, we should expect there to be a growing segment of knowledge seekers in the country as the internet evolves and people become more sophisticated with the tools. To give you a sense of what they're doing online and the internet usage topics, the number 1 is social networking and connecting. Right, so that's a country of communicators right there. The second category, though, is a little bit more on the knowledge-seeking side. So we've got news, sports, and weather being very popular. Email being one of the functional tasks of the internet, and multimedia and entertainment. So consuming, it might be YouTube, it might be videos or images and so on the internet. And finally, the last category would include hobbies, personal interests, pre-purchase and browsing, and I want to come back to this one later on in the presentation. And finally, online gaming, which I was surprised wasn't very high. Maybe this is because this is survey data and people don't want to admit how much they spend playing casual games online. Moving along now, I wanted to talk about how people spend their time across different media devices. So traditionally, we all know TV to be the number 1 media source for reaching an audience, the masses, and I believe that's still the case today in Bangladesh. However, you know, TNS has always done their surveys with these 5 different media sources, trying to understand how people use them after they've already come onto the internet. So for internet usage, internet users daily, the lowest media sources are magazines and radio. This shouldn't be too surprising, actually, because many of these things are available online. So once somebody becomes savvy with the internet, then they start to consume that on the internet and not in these other sources. What was surprising was that for newspapers, and this is a credit to your local publishers, 69% of internet users say they still read a newspaper every day. That's pretty impressive, I have to say. This number in other countries is lower than 30%, actually, in countries in the region. But the one I wanted to focus on was TV and the internet, actually. So this number has pretty much become even for internet users. And if we were to talk about emerging trends and where we would expect this to go, elsewhere in the region, you'd see the internet usage actually dominate across all the other mediums, right, very soon. My guess is probably this is already the case or becoming the case in Bangladesh today. In TNS's study in Pakistan, actually they found that 60% more, there was 60% more internet usage than TV viewership for internet users. So these are massive changes that are happening, and it's important for all of us as companies to understand them and to be able to react to them. Now I'm going to talk about mobile devices, and there's probably not going to be any big surprises here. The mobile is the primary internet device in Bangladesh, and according to the survey results, 95% have said they've used mobile internet at least once. 69% say they use the mobile internet daily, and 60% say they actually prefer to use mobile internet most often. Now, this shouldn't be very surprising as a whole. I think that it's kind of natural that when we see the mobile rates going up that we would say, oh yeah, of course mobile internet is the primary thing. But in my work in Bangladesh over the last couple of years, working with some of the largest companies, and it's a problem for Google ourselves, is we often think about the internet in a desktop or a large monitor world, right, like a laptop. And when we create assets online, whether it's a website or a tool or a portal, it's often with a desktop format first. Now that is the way that the people in this room would think about it, because that's the way we grew up with the internet. We evolved with the internet from the very early days. But people who are coming online now, and this next 100 million that are going to come online in Bangladesh, they're going to experience it mobile first. They may not even touch a laptop or a desktop. And the mobile device is a very special device. I'm going to show you something interesting about your mobile phone. So if you don't have your mobile phone out, please take your mobile phone out right now. And just do me a quick favor and just unlock it. Yeah? All right, so now you've got your phones unlocked. I'm going to show you something very interesting here. I want you to take that phone, have a look at it, and pass it to the person next to you. Nobody's passing their phone. Nobody's passing their phone. Okay. Everybody's looking very uncomfortable right now. It's a very personal device, and honestly, most of us only got it over the last few years, and it's become this super important device for us, right? It's not TV, it's not radio, it's not even your corporate laptop or your family desktop. This is a different type of device. This is a very personal device, and if we're not creating experiences designed with that device in mind first, right, we're probably doing it wrong. So I want to leave you guys with that in terms of mobile. Finally, I want to talk to you guys about the e-commerce opportunity. Now, the e-commerce opportunity, it's a major driver for the internet around the world. It's a major driver for the economy and representative of the internet in many ways. But based on our research study, the internet is being underused in the country right now for online shopping. Only 22% of the internet users had said they've ever shopped online. And 18% said that they shop online at least once a month. So that number is very, very low. They spend about 7,500 taka annually. And what they spend their money on and what they research online for purchases is mobile phones. They look at electronics, consumer devices, and education. And that's a little heartening as well. That's nice. The people are looking to educate themselves online and purchase it. But why? Why aren't 78% of them shopping online? And we asked the question, the top 3 reasons, and they're fairly equal in weight. So I'll share all 3. The first was it wasn't possible to buy online. It wasn't possible for them to buy online. So either the product itself, the consumer good, or the retail good, whatever it might be, wasn't available to make the purchase online or to ship to them, or they didn't have the payment facility to actually go out and make the purchase. Right? So that's a major problem. They were afraid of transaction security online. This is a big one. Now, this happens wherever e-commerce starts to grow, is that the general population is concerned about internet security. Many of us probably use online shopping very, very often. I mean, I know for myself to come to Bangladesh from Singapore, I booked my hotel, I booked my flight, everything online, actually mostly from my mobile phone. But in Bangladesh, this is being cited as a major reason why people do not shop online. So it's going to be the responsibility of the government and of the private sector to ensure that we have clear security and that we can give confidence to users in their purchases online. And finally, they did not know about the opportunity. They didn't even know it was possible to make the purchase online, right? And this is not a small amount. There's like 20% of the people who didn't make a purchase online. It's a big amount. So I'm going to talk about that one a little bit because we know a little bit about getting the word out online. Google's obviously their primary business is online advertising. And we've seen that as being a major driver for e-commerce in other countries. I'll give you an example. So in Bangladesh, according to this study, 32% of all internet users recalled seeing online advertising, and it led to 3 different actions. 82% of them took online action after seeing this ad, right? And so they would actually click on the ad, or they might go to the website of the brand or do some research online. 35% said they took offline action. Now this could be actually speaking to friends and family. It could also be actually going to the physical shop, which is very common in Bangladesh, where they'd see it online, maybe see an advertisement, or even research it online, and then go to the shop to feel it, see it, and buy it there potentially. 17% actually bought the product. This is how effective online advertising is. So it's very, very important as a driver for e-commerce. And I want to share this story because I've worked with a lot of e-commerce companies in the country, and I've worked with a lot of large FMCG companies as well in the country. And one of the major problems they have when working with international online media platforms, such as Google's or Facebook's and so on, is that they can't actually pay. They can't send the foreign remittances to pay for these tools. So they aren't able to build their business because they aren't actually able to make the payments to drive their business. Now, 19% of Bangladeshis say that they're more likely to discover brands that advertise online. So we need to find a way to make this more possible and easier, and to let Bangladeshis actually know about the opportunity of buying online. Lastly, I'm going to show you just a quick case study here from India. And I mean, it's reasonable to say that India, even the e-commerce growth there, isn't as fast as it could be right now. But I share the example as an example of what could be the case if we were to do this right in Bangladesh. Now, the Indian retail e-commerce sector has grown compound annual growth rate of 35% since 2012. It's going to hit $7.69 billion this year. It's massive. This sector in India has attracted so much VC dollars, like venture capital dollars and private equity dollars, over the last few years. It's really heated up the entire economy and the entire ecosystem for startups. In 2014, just last year, that industry contributed 20% of the total digital media spend, so on the digital advertising side, which was of a total of about $433 million. We should see that number in India go to about $560 million this year. And finally, the e-commerce sector, their digital ad spend has been growing at about 59% year on year since 2011. Now, why is it so much higher than their actual growth in revenue? The reason for that is because actually when they first started using digital media, they were just experimenting with it, right? The traditional norm is that, you know, we should be running all of our ads on TV and print, and that's where people will see it. So they ran tests online to see, is this effective? As soon as they found that this actually aligned with their marketing objectives and drove their sales, they've started growing their online buying significantly since then. So I share that story with you because if we're talking about how can we drive our economy, and we've had several mentions of this today and how the internet does that, we need to look a little bit deeper to see what is actually going to do that once the internet is available. And e-commerce is certainly one of those things. In India, it is expected that even 50,000 new jobs, and not just any job, these would be data analysts, like very sophisticated jobs, will be created over the next 5 years in India. And that's another possibility we could have here in Bangladesh as well. So there's the sources there. I just want to leave you again with those 4 main insights that we had from the study. That Bangladeshi internet users, they're active contributors to the digital conversation. They're spending nearly as much time online as they do watching TV, and likely that's already switched. Likely internet is their primary source of media right now. The access to the internet is primarily through the mobile, and the mobile world requires a different mindset. And you have to be mobile first if you want to compete, and if you want to be relevant to internet users in the country today. And very finally, they want to shop online. So we need to help them do that. We need to enable them to be able to do that. So I'm very excited about everything we've discussed today. I look forward on behalf of Google to work with many of you in making this a reality and making Digital Bangladesh a reality, possibly before 2021. And finally, I want to thank the organizers here on behalf of Google for inviting us to speak today. So thank you very much, and I'll see you guys in the panel.
Thank you, Mr. Qizilbash. That was really insightful. And now we have our last panel discussion on contribution of mobile telecom sector in digital Bangladesh, opportunities and challenges. I would request Mr. Anir Chaudhry, Policy Advisor A2I, Prime Minister's Office, to conduct the session. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Anir Chaudhry.
Thank you. I'd like to request the panelists to come on stage, please. Mr. Sunil Kanti Bose, Chairman BTRC. Mr. Rajiv Sethi, CEO Grameenphone. Mr. T.I.M. Nurul Kabir, Secretary General AMTOP. Mr. Sami Qizilbash, Google. And Mr. Shihab Ahmed, Chief Commercial Officer, Banglalink, please. So I'll start without further ado. I have the interesting predicament. I have the largest panel, the shortest time, and a thinning crowd that's getting increasingly impatient. So we'll start quickly then. We've had a number of very interesting discussions and presentations all day. Let me actually start with Mr. Kabir. Secretary General AMTOP. So we learned about the successful drive by the government and private sector in collaboration to digitalize services in our country. We've learned about how international investors such as Accenture and Telenor support and are aligned with government's ambition to continue the digitalization drive. If I sum up, there were a couple of things that, that we actually learned today. So firstly, we need to provide digital access to population at large, to the grassroots specifically. Second, we need to have meaningful and understandable content, keeping in mind the literacy, accessibility in the forms of products and services. And then thirdly, this is the question of ecosystem, right? So we need to develop the win-win ecosystem with smaller and larger contributors, the content providers, basis members, large companies, investors, regulator, government, so on and so forth. And there is the issue of incubation of innovation. So we'll talk about all those very quickly in about half an hour. I think I was given about 30 minutes. So the clock has started ticking already. Now from an AMTOP perspective, what do you think AMTOP and the industry can play as a role to promote internet and develop broadband ecosystem. So let's talk about ecosystem first. I think that is something we need to talk about. And what role do you expect the government to play in building that ecosystem?
Thank you. This is a very broader perspective, though you mentioned that time is very short, but this is very important discussions that we need to discuss. If we discuss to the ecosystem, there is a large part of the areas and all the stakeholders are involved. But make it short, you know that mobile telecom industry, the mobile network operator especially, as from the morning to the previous session, we have witnessed that the mobile ecosystem, actually the biggest investment from the perspective of the develop the network, what we call highway, which has been invested by the mobile network over last 20 years, and which is not a small amount, which is more than in Bangladesh taka 80,000 crore than more. And most of them are foreign direct investors. And if we see the statistics, every $100 coming to this country as an investment, $60 comes from the mobile telecom industry, which is very significant. And I must say that we can call them a change maker of Bangladesh, because that they have changed the socio-economic condition of the country. Now the mobile became not a talking machine or talking device. It has become an instrument to providing a lot of services to the citizen, connecting people, connect banking sector, those who are not unbanked people, they are also connected. One of the biggest, which in your last point, as an industry association or the representative of the industry, see important that making a good partnership between, and we are very successfully trying to achieve certain success and also overcoming some challenges. The biggest challenge right now this industry is that some taxation policy. The taxation policy itself is a biggest barrier, because if you see that every 100 taka these companies are earning, 55 taka goes to government exchequer. Even that, in some cases, the companies are in a certain uncertainty, unpredictability situation, that what will come next day. So there actually my urge that we need to revisit the whole taxation policy, where we can also give better environment to the industry to grow, and consumer can get effective service, and government also get better revenue. So this is one of the recommendations that taxation policy need to be revisited. Another things that you already mentioned, that even my previous presenter, that he has mentioned about the Google perspective, the Bangladesh. The most of the success factor of the internet users are now using through mobile phone. 95% internet users using through mobile phone. So in that context, if we consider this is one of our integral part or in the driver to achieve our vision to make this country middle income country, world bank perspective, that it is also part of contribution of GDP. So this is one of the sector is now contributing continuously for economic development of the country, where regulatory environment also very important. Though we are working very closely with our regulator, is very friendly, business friendly, I can say very frankly, but there are certain things we need to position. After 1998, the telecom policy not yet been revised, and government is now taking initiative to revise that, which is very much needed. We have Digital Bangladesh Perspective Plan. We have 6 5-year plan almost finishing,
next 7 5-year plan drafting job started. But unfortunately, we could not finalize the telecom policy, which is now need to be in place. And also, technology is evolving every day. It is such an instrument that we cannot actually stick on that part. And from the licensing regime, this industry is another challenging situation, that technology neutrality is very important. We cannot actually think about 10 years before that, okay, you will get this license for this particular spectrum and you will get this particular. Rather, if we give them more flexibility for the technology neutrality, that will enable the better support and service to the consumer, effective and efficient service, and where government will be also benefited. Innovation is, the previous panel was discussing about innovation. When innovation comes, there should not be restriction. There should have some facilitations. So in the end, I must say that what industry needs from the government is facilitation, support, boosting up, and we cannot go forward without this industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Kabir Bhai. I'm seeing that the BTIC chairman is taking a lot of notes, so he will respond later on, but I'd like to go to Rajiv first, CEO Grameenphone. Now, you run the largest MNO in the country. And there is I think, a target that you have to reach about 50 million data connected users. I'm assuming you're talking about broadband or just any speed, I don't know, you may be able to answer that. And we also know that the most popular data service is probably Facebook right now. So how do you see that context changing? We talked about many different types of services, ranging from education to health to agriculture to social safety nets to e-commerce, and the list goes on. So from the perspective of GP, how do you see the trend changing from Facebook to many of the other, perhaps more useful lifeline support type of services, livelihood support type of services?
I think that assessment is absolutely correct. Most of the current internet users which are there are internet largely because of the social media. Facebook being the most important one of them. But on the other hand, if we look at people who do not use internet, a recent survey indicates that 8 out of them do not use internet because they do not have a good enough reason to use internet, and some of them do not know how to use internet. It's both and how. And why is the part which you are referring to? For them, possibly social media is reason to go online at this point of time. And that's something which we are really interested in. And it can be a series of services, it can be bouquets of services. And I was extremely excited to see the list which you presented. There's a huge amount of work which is happening. It's both on the services side, it's also on the content side. Can we partner with government agencies like yours who are working on making all the governmental services available on the internet? Can we make it more mobile friendly? Can we educate people, customers, how to use those services, the value we can bring there? That's one element. Element we speak about here, this is a pretty young country. More than 65% of people below 35 years of age. A growing population, large number of students coming to schools every single year. There's a gap in that side. The gap in terms of quality education. Quality teachers are available, but our ability, the ability of those teachers to reach where this is a challenge. Can we do that? The answer is yes. All of us have heard about Khan Academy, such a popular service, not in Bangladesh. Can we have a Khan Academy equivalent in Bangladesh? Can we do something on that side? I think those are things which keep us excited. Health we spoke about. I think the first steps we are taking there, and health is universal. All of us need health services at some point or the other. But several of people do not have access to it. That's another area which we need to work on. Agriculture. Again, something which we can't do on our own. We'll have to partner with people in the government. We saw some interesting work which has happened. So in my mind, in case we have to move from a current 25-30% of internet penetration on the mobile side to a number which is close to 100%, it will not be led by social media. It will not be as important as it is now. The next set of services will have to be on different ones. It has to be education, it has to be health, it has to be agriculture, and it has to be a local content which is available.
Great, thank you. You mentioned Khan Academy. Just for your information, we're actually discussing with Khan Academy right now, with a Silicon Valley-based foundation called Agami, who's translating Khan Academy content into Bangla to make that service available in Bangladesh, because the local language is important. Sometimes the context has to be translated as well, not just the language. They're doing that. Agami Foundation is doing that. Again, bandwidth is the issue, right? So you make it available, but how will it be piped to the houses and the schools and so on and so forth, right? So let me come to Banglalink, Mr. Shihab Ahmed. Similar issues. Obviously, you've had some success with your agriculture call center. So in light of that experience, if you could tell us what your plans are, what Mr. Sethi talked about, what Banglalink's plans are in terms of bringing more than Facebook, if I may say so, to your users, and then bring them to internet and make them use internet much more usefully, perhaps.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, you're right. Krishi Jigyasha, the service that we launched for farmers, it was really successful. The way we look at internet is actually we look at it in different waves. So the first wave is where you actually establish the infrastructure to connect people. That is being done by the mobile operators. And with 3G, the speed that I am seeing happening in terms of coverage expansion, the way people are using internet now, I think the wave is creating huge impetus in uptake. And over the next few years, I don't think we'll be leaving any person in the country who has the ability to use internet will not be leaving him outside the coverage area. So that's going to happen. The second wave, the way we see, is basically bringing value to the customers through the internet. Now, obviously, Facebook, Google was always there. So that's the natural value that they're getting now. And that is the segment who's using internet most often now. That we see in every research. But this wave has to happen in terms of local content creation. In the previous panel, when Sonia was talking about local action, I was thinking, that's the right approach. Basically, we have to create an environment where we allow our innovators, young innovators, to succeed through failure. Right now, if you look at the structure in the market, we, as an operator, we're working with local content providers to come up with new contents and drive content to different segments. And obviously, we're working with some ideas on agriculture. We have launched our video doctor survey. So we are working on content development with partners. But I think the momentum is still less because we are not seeing innovators on their own believing that I can create a business out of it. They're too much afraid of failure because the funding process is so difficult. They need to either manage the equity on their own or do in a very small scale, which eventually doesn't get to the size that is required to make it successful. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to encourage young innovators. We have a Grandmaster program where we allow them to come up with ideas, and then we allow them to work with us to develop the business models so that they can succeed. And we are actually trying to expand this structure so that more local content developers come in. I personally believe that, Facebook and Google will have its own level of expansion in this market. But until and unless I can make the farmer or the young student or somebody who's really at the bottom of the income pyramid, he finds some value in the internet, will not be seeing the real growth. So what we are trying to do is expand our reach through our partners, through the Grandmaster project, and there are some other projects we are working on to create that momentum. Obviously, It can't be done alone by one operator. It has to be done by operators, the banks, the government together. And one area I think where government can help is government is the largest organization and it needs a lot of digital services. And the more government can open up digital services to these young communities who can create services, there will be chances of failure, but that will create a big momentum, I believe.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me go to Sami from Google. Now, we're already working with you on Street View and a number of other initiatives. There are other tools that we are expecting anytime soon, Bangla OCR, text-to-speech, many other things that you're already working on, language tools. So, two questions to you, actually. In the interest of time, I'm just lumping them in together. One is content. So, you're developing tools, let's say OCR or text-to-speech, that can generate content for the internet. And the second question is around interfaces, user interfaces. In the morning speech of the Honorable IT advisor, ICT advisor, he talked about 60%, 65% of our country being literate. So 35% are not literate. If we look at functional literacy, it's probably less than 65%. Now, if you give them a smartphone, the expectation is that by 2020, 80% of the users will actually carry smartphones. So that's the global trend, expectation. Same thing will probably happen in Bangladesh, if not earlier. Now, just because you have a smartphone doesn't mean that you can actually use it in very meaningful ways. So the interface actually has to change for almost 50% of our population. And of course, our population will become more and more literate. So on those two sides, so generating tools that will make much more useful content and generating interfaces, maybe with your Android initiative and many other initiatives that you have. We know that Google has a lot of educational tools that you're building. So that entire ecosystem, so that usability is more targeted to users who cannot use the current interface of smartphones. So what is Google's plans and where do you see that going?
Great. Thank you for the question. That was a long one. So let's start with the first part around content. On the content side, I'd say this one is extremely important for Bangladesh. Firstly, there's about 20% of the population that is considered to be English speaking. That means 80%, if they were to see value in the internet, then it needs to be in the local language in Bangla. And that presents a challenge for the internet, actually, to bring all of these Bangla speakers onto the internet and to actually find value. Working with a lot of our partners here in Bangladesh, actually, we try to take those insights to them so that they can make changes to their online assets accordingly. I think that the fact that we are also saying roughly 25% of people are online in the country, that means this next 100 million or so internet users that will come online in Bangladesh will be Bangla speakers. So we need to actually act very, very fast when it comes to Bangla content. Now, in terms of tools to create, we do have a few platforms. Actually, beyond even the text side of things, we focus a lot on video. So YouTube, for example, as a creative platform for people to be able to share news, updates. It's a means of what we call user-generated content, right? It's you and me actually being able to film ourselves and share our message with the world. And we see that becoming viral in a lot of developing markets, such as Thailand, such as Indonesia and Vietnam, where this concept catches on and there's instantly relevant local content available for the country. So I would definitely like to see growth in that. That's something that I want to focus on this year together with my team. So I think that would be a very, very important one. The other thing in terms of content, very important is always to have relevant content at the right time in the right place. In general, relevant content for me, I'm going to be heading to the airport later this evening. relevant content would be one that would pop up on my phone and tell me I need to head to the airport now if I want to reach, the airport on time, 2 hours in advance, and make my flight. How can we create those type of experiences in a local way, in a local fashion for local internet users? I think those are questions that many content developers in the country should be asking themselves now. If there's a disturbance on the roads, for example, then can you notify me of that? And maybe suggest a different route, because I am using my mobile device and it's smart enough to know which route I'm probably taking to get to my destination. Things like that could really change the game. And hopefully some of the platforms we have, existing platforms such as Maps and now with Street View, where retailers can actually tag their own local information onto those, and Android and so on, they can use those and YouTube to create on top of it. And that leads me to the next one in terms of the platforms, actually. So from the platform's perspective, I think that we need to continue focusing on a few main things, main challenges that we have in the country. And I mentioned a few of them earlier. There's that knowledge, the education around what is possible online, growing people not necessarily out of social media, but beyond social media. Having more knowledge seekers, having them use these tools online, understanding what's relevant. I think that's going to become a very, very important trend that we need to develop and accelerate in the country. So the education initiatives such as Google Bus, we'd like to do more of these types of things, and we'd like to work with partners to make that a reality. The other one is, in terms of platforms that we could provide, would be enhancing to some degree access. We're doing tests with, for example, Project Loon, which is sending balloons into the stratosphere and beaming internet down. Now, Mr. Sajid Wazed had mentioned earlier that he was driving around the rural areas and he lost his 3G connection. So what can we do that's innovative to fill in those gaps, to make sure that people in those regions are able to access the content that we create at that same user experience level that people with a 3G, 4G connection elsewhere would be able to have. And I think networks such as Amra, for example, can actually help us significantly in reaching that goal. And finally on the education side, there's just one last piece, and actually something that came up in the research study, which was a bit concerning, was that actually 46% of the respondents who were non-users of the internet, they cited the fact that they are not encouraged or not even allowed to use the internet right now. And that is an important thing. So culturally, we need to bring this into the cultural fold of Bangladesh and an acceptable medium in Bangladesh in many of our rural areas as well. And so the content we create needs to have that in mind. It needs to be culturally inclusive. It needs to be encouraging of the power of the internet. And while Google can provide platforms, it is really up to many of the local stakeholders to create that type of valuable content for them that can increase the desire around accessing the internet. And to Mr. Rajiv's point here, that it should not be a waste of time. It shouldn't be. It should be valuable time spent. So those are my thoughts on the content side and the platforms.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm very mindful of the time. It's telling me 4 minutes left, but maybe we'll take a couple of extra minutes. Let me come to BTRC chairman. Many of the speakers talked about policy issues. Kabir talked about taxation policy. I know that's not your domain. Telecom policy came up several times during the course of the day. I think one thing that we heard repeatedly is maybe some kind of spectrum roadmap or some kind of predictability for investment, things like that. Regulatory certainty overall. I mean, if you want to just lump it into. So if you would share your views on regulatory certainty in general, and also talk about, I think the entire day we spent on more internet, higher bandwidth, more users, more quickly. So what is the regulator doing about that as well? So regulatory certainty and also creating a supportive, facilitative environment to reach that goal.
Thank you very much. I was not really informed what type of question will be coming to me. And the type of panel has been organized, and I was asked, I was feeling very, very uncomfortable and unfit here. But your question made me really somewhat courageous and comfortable that I can really answer. Thank you very much for that. First of all,
work with you well enough to know what will work.
so because you made it broader, because I was made so tiny that I couldn't feel that I can answer anything here or talk anything. But thank you very much. First, the three questions one of the panelists in the beginning mentioned, and that was also spoken by many of the speakers here and there. And I, as the regulator, has been hearing it. I, as the policymaker, had heard it, and you understand that for last 5 years, what type of progress has taken place. You know that, and I am here for, this is my 7th year in this sector as policymaker and regulator from February 2009 till date in the position of secretary to the government and as the regulator. Why I am giving this introduction, that what you have asked, these are not, unfortunately I will have to say, these are not available in a form they are expected. It is true. But it is not true that it's a big hurdle for the investor, for these operators really to proceed and do the business in Bangladesh. That is the next step. Why it is so? The things told were taxation, technical neutrality, telecom policy. Telecom policy is of 1998. How it became outdated? It became outdated. There were targets there which are no more valid. It doesn't have. Let it be kept aside, and we have our own targets, and everybody knows it. There are other policies, ancillary policies, and those are really followed. And the telecom policy, a national telecom policy encompassing everything that is being prepared, and you know that that should not really preclude the investors, the service providers, existing operators, anybody really to function here comfortably. We can, I as regulator can assure it, and the government. That is all. Second, technical neutrality, yes. When you compare, because they are, as he was saying, that you see, they are more, in our country, they are almost all, you see, international investors and the mobile telephone service provider. So they have investment in many other countries, developed countries, developing countries. So they compare. They find that technological neutrality is very, very essential for their business comfort. Predictability is essential. They talk in case of regulatory arena. Yes, we recognize it, and recognizing that the technical neutrality we are gradually providing. We provided when it was 3G licensing. You see, we gave them that with this spectrum, we gave 3G license and we gave that 3G spectrum, and 2100 megahertz band spectrum, and at that time we say that it is also suitable for 4G. You can use it in 4G ecosystem and do it. And so you see, technical neutrality, they are now asking for 1800. The operator. 2G, for 2G it was given, not today. It was given much earlier. And we are saying that yes, it will be given. But we are in the process. So the technical neutrality, technological neutrality will be coming. For BWA operator, it has been given. The WiMAX, those licenses were WiMAX license. Once the technology didn't work, with no money, we allowed them, we gave them the technological neutrality and allowed them that yes, you can use your spectrum for LTE. So we did it. We'll also do it here. So that,
I think the
those are
clock
not program.
actually-
Taxation is somewhat a problem.
Right. The clock doesn't have a negative time.
But it cannot be
So if
only
we could-
applied here when you come here, because you see, if you mean it and it is a panel, at least I think I should be given more time, if not the equal time. Equal time is not there.
Just,
Otherwise, you don't ask me here to come.
Right, absolutely, that's fine.
So you cannot do that.
Right, okay.
Yeah, you cannot do that.
He's the one in the position of stopping others.
No, I am not wanting.
That's
I am not
fine.
wanting any
Go ahead.
trivialization.
I was told that our honorable ICT state minister would have to leave, but if you give us a few more minutes.
Now, if you
Please.
ask me questions,
No, absolutely.
if you don't
Please
allow
go
me
ahead.
to speak,
No, that's
then it is not fair, and you cannot do that, and you cannot roll. It is
right.
unacceptable.
Absolutely, absolutely. Go ahead.
So that's what it is. Sure. And about taxation, yes. Taxation, in the morning the advisor told it, I have no two opinions. That is the problem. Taxation is gradually improving, and we hope that it will be better in it would be better in very short time. But the taxation regime in countries like ours would be really somewhat near to where we are. An abrupt change cannot be expected, but predictability, yes, predictability will be coming there. You see, about these companies, their condition is also improving. 3 years back, only one company used to make profit. I look to the balance sheet as the regulator. Now this year, 3 companies will be making profit in this country. So is it not, will you not call it a, you see, investment-friendly environment? These are important things, and it is very relevant. Next, this opportunity, as I said, I am in this sector. In how many developing countries you compare? Of all the continents in the world, the future business opportunity you can find as you can find in Bangladesh. In Bangladesh, still, the voice, you see, penetration will grow. The percentage will gradually really diminish, but you have for the voice also market. And the internet, I need not elaborate. You all know that the internet market is there. And you see today the Telenor said, and the thing is that internet for all, and that's what it is. We are also. In many countries, it is not a crash sector. And in Bangladesh, it is digital Bangladesh, and government support and commitment here, it shows us that it's a very good environment. If they call and consider that the regulatory environment, policy environment is not favorable, it would be very unfair to comment by them. I know the global regulatory environment, I can sit with Mr. Baksas and talk for hours and can really show him that in Bangladesh, the environment is much better than many countries, And that's what it is. Because I have discussion with at least 50 to 60 regulators about all these things. And therefore, I should say that it is very good, and in Bangladesh, they should invest more in mobile sector. And at the end, I must congratulate and I must thank the mobile service providers that they are the ones who really brought digital Bangladesh to think as vision by the government, by the politicians. And in 1996, 97, you see these mobile operators were the market was liberalized, and today they are here. And mobile business, mobile is the device everybody has stopped, and we are in telecom. We regulate the whole communication, ICT, broadcasting, and also telecom. And all these, you see, are very, very important. But for all these, and for digital Bangladesh, I believe that mobile will continue to contribute the most in future. And I would urge upon the mobile operators, service providers, and anybody associated with the mobile business that they should really invest here more and assess the need of the people and present concern, as you said, the challenges, is the quality of service. People always come to us with the quality of service, and they need to improve the quality of services. 3G spectrum they have taken. Mr. Baxter told in the morning that how important is the spectrum. License is next, the spectrum is the main thing. So once they get the spectrum and they go for actually rolling it out, and they have BTS, they have stations, but that is not enough. They need to collocate more, you see, BTS there and make the quality of service improve so that they enjoy more people support and they can go ahead. You see, I thank them that due to competition, a good competition was also prevailing here, and because of that, Bangladesh is one of the countries where the people are getting the service at a very low price. So this is all about what has been discussed today, and that is, and from me I can say that the regulatory environment in Bangladesh is one of the best in the world, and the operators didn't, yes, the operators didn't really face and are not facing.
They want it to become better.
And are not facing any stringent measures by which they would always be, you see, terrified, terrorized by the regulator. We don't terrorize the regulator.
Very friendly regulator.
We facilitate the regulator, and people have started saying that regulators have become the friends of the operators and where we are. So they should really use it for the people and enjoy the people's support.
Great. Thank you. There was a very hopeful message from our regulator. We ran out of time quite a while ago, but before we end the panel, there is an audio visual I'd like to show you on this very hopeful note on the points of opportunities, not challenges, that I was going to show during my presentation, but I ran out of time there. It's 2 minutes and 9 seconds. Thank you. Is that going to work? Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Onir Chaudhary and distinguished panelists. I think we had a wonderful time. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a long day and it's almost time to say goodbye. However, to conclude the summit, I would like to invite the Honorable State Minister, Ministry of Posts, Telecommunications and Information Technology, Mr. Junaid Ahmed Pollock MP on stage and summarize the discussions. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Junaid Ahmed Pollock MP.
Honorable Chair of this excellent program, respectable President and CEO of Telenor Group, Mr. Sean Frederick Baxas, Senior Managing Director of Accenture Asia Pacific, Mr. Gisab Chilani, respected speakers from home and abroad for this prestigious Digital Investment Summit 2015, industry leaders, policymakers, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon to you all. Ladies and gentlemen, it's indeed my privilege to be here with you since Digital Investment Summit 2015 will obviously be a milestone for building digital Bangladesh. The day-long summit has explored many things and disseminated many information and ideas for the betterment of digital Bangladesh. I would like to address all those things and also like to inform you some more information about our journey to digital Bangladesh. For enlisting the companies in stock exchange, there is a cap, that is the company which is going to be enlisted in stock market, they must have a minimum annual turnover. For any company, the annual turnover is minimum 40 crore taka, but most of our IT companies did not have that much turnover. So for flourishing the local IT and ITS companies, we are planning to lessen the cap for our IT and ITS companies, as most of our companies are operating in small and medium scale. So the caps would be abated. What we saw in the presentation of Google, e-commerce is a part of digital activities. The more of e-commerce flourishing, of the more achievement for digital Bangladesh. Regarding this, a major thing to be reformed for reaching our destination, that is VAT withdrawal from e-commerce. Our government are going to withdraw all sorts of VATs from e-commerce, and we are trying to find out how we can withdraw these VATs from e-commerce, and we had a good discussion with Finance Minister just 2 weeks back, and we're trying to have these facilities in next budget session. Distinguished guests, government has to comply with the public procurement policy in case of buying and spending, but our firms are emerging, and most of the cases they couldn't qualify themselves in government procurement for the lack of experience of work in larger scale as well as their investment. We want to reduce the barrier in participating of government procurement, as such they would be able to participate in tendering process. In contrary of participate, they also do not have much capability to compete with the foreign IT and ITS companies. It's evident that without strengthening the local companies, entrepreneurs, digital Bangladesh cannot solely depend on the foreign companies. So for exploring the potentials of local companies, entrepreneurs, we are going to revise the public procurement policy within a very short time. Another good news for the investors is that we have a tax exemption up to 2019 on IT. This is quite good, but we are not satisfied with that. Furthermore, most of the international IT giants ask incentives for their long-term investment policy. Hence, from the next fiscal budget, you will get the announcement of tax exemption up to 2024. And also, we have talked to our NBR to consider our proposal, and we hope that we will get these facilities. We are doing work on that. I believe this short announcement will attract more foreign investment in IT sector. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to urge Huawei to establish a R&D or support center in Bangladesh, as you are a key playing in our forward movement. Samsung R&D support is operating in Bangladesh and doing well. So Huawei could follow their footsteps by establishing an R&D center or support center in Bangladesh. It's my ecstasy to enunciate that the venture capital firm Phoenix Venture had already announced to invest $200 million in Bangladesh. This is the first venture capital firm which declared to invest in our IT sector in collaboration with our local firms. Regarding the venture capital investment, we don't have a policy and guideline. That's why we are going to enact a venture capital policy within a very short time to create the mid-level skilled IT workforce. Our Honorable ICT Affairs Advisor to Prime Minister, Mr. Sajib Wajer Joy, has directed us to set up IT vocational training center in every division. We are working upon that, and from the next year, we will have the IT vocational training center in every divisional headquarters. Ladies and gentlemen, we are very much keen to solve all obstacles and hurdles in developing the IT companies in Bangladesh. Besides these, we want to enhance our cooperation to all of the foreign firms and companies. I'm delighted to inform you that we have declared Accenture Bangladesh as the private software technology park, which is the first ever in Bangladesh. Side by side, we are trying to find a better solution for the problems belonging to the Samsung R&D for their development in Bangladesh. Some of their proposals are in the strong consideration in the Ministry of Finance, National Board of Revenue, as well as to the Bangladesh Bank. Dignitaries, Bangladesh economy is transforming from traditional agriculture-based economy into digital economy. For doing so, foreign direct investment playing a vital role, and telecom sector has experienced a remarkable growth in the FDI. Telecom sector brings the lion's share of FDI among the overall FDI. It's almost 60% of the total FDI. Why this sector are attracting the FDI over the other sectors? Because of our policy support and the cost attractiveness. So you must ask me the features of advantage and FDI in Bangladesh, especially in ICT sector. We have identified 12 more incentives for inspiring the investment in ICT, which are now under consideration in the National Board of Revenue. Some notable incentives are 100% corporate income tax exemption for 10 years from the date of commencement, accelerated depreciations on the computers, machineries, and software for 3 years. VAT on electricity usage will be exempted for a period of 10 years from the date of commencement of operation of the high-tech park. Individual inverters will allow duty-free import of software and hardware for operational use up to a maximum of $1.25 million per unit. We believe the incentives could be able to avail from the next fiscal year. I would like to request the organizers to summarize the outcome of this summit so that I can submit that to the Honorable Prime Minister soon, considering that the budget session of the Parliament is going to start within few days. Finally, I like to say to you all, from policy support to incentives, training to infrastructures, whatever you need to grow up, we will do all the possible tasks. This is the commitment of the present government to gear up our activities regarding digital Bangladesh. Hopefully, the next step will illumine us the digital Bangladesh. Thank you all for your patient hearing. Be digital, build digital. Joy Bangla, Joy Bangla.
We thank the Honorable State Minister, Ministry of Posts, Telecommunications and Information Technology, Mr. Junaid Ahmed Kholar, MP, for his kind words and to make time for this auspicious event. Before finally concluding the event, we would like to thank all our participants for your valuable time and sharing your thoughts with us. We would like to thank Telenor Group, Accenture, Basis and ICT Division, Ministry of Posts, Telecommunications and Information Technology for their wholehearted support in making this summit a truly memorable one. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being part of the Digital Investment Summit. Thank you.